Why do so many collectors lose money on things that they gamble or speculate on? You know, my dad got a Teddy Rexpin,
Yes.
and it never went up in value.
What is that?
It's an old, like, toy, and he kept it sealed, and it was like a talking toy, and you put batteries in the back of it. And he bought one from me, and I remember playing with it, and then he bought one that he never opened, and it's still unopened, and we still have it. But you could go on eBay, and you find these things for dirt cheap, also just unopened. They never went up in value. Or Beanie Babies, another one that just spiked, and people were putting their retirement in Beanie Babies, and then lost all of their money.
Well, look, it comes down to this, and this is what I tell people. Study and follow your passions so that you learn so much about a category that you can protect yourself from yourself. I mean, really.
Yeah.
So how do you enter into a new category? To me, when I enter a new category, I want to learn what the most valuable items in that category are, the most anything's ever sold for. So for instance, in cards, I want to know about the 52 Mantle or the Honus Wagner. I want to know about the Pikachu Illustrator card. I want to know about all that stuff. And then I want to work my way down a path of something that I know a lot about. So if I'm a big basketball fan, I want to focus on basketball. And if I'm a big Jordan fan, I want to focus on Jordan. And continue to narrow my base of what I can collect from down to something that I feel like I can learn and know more than most people that are buying and selling. It's just like a stock in that regard. If you know more about the companies that you're investing in, you tend to do better. If you have more insight, you tend to do better. So what I recommend is don't chase something just because other people are doing it. Don't go after and say, oh, this is hot, I'm going after it. Learn, study, focus on your passions. It's very much like managing a career. And frankly speaking, collectibles can be a great way to diversify your portfolio.
Realistically, what percentage of someone's portfolio should be in collectibles if they're interested in it?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, if it is your life's passion, 10 to 15%, put it in collectibles, put money into the stock market, put money into real estate, put money into bonds, and put money into other things. 10 to 15%.
Is that where you're at about?
I'd say more like 5.
Oh, okay. So it's a relatively small portion for you.
Yeah.
I saw this tweet. This was kind of going viral. It says 4 years of ownership. He paid $320,000, took it from 1,200 to 17,000 miles, and he sold it for $315,000. So to own this car here, it cost him $5,000 over the course of a few years.
That's amazing.
And then everyone started responding to this tweet with their exact, their similar. I know that's how I saw you respond to it. I was like, I know
was the first one, dude. I
think you were the second one. I think you were the second one.
I saw that when it had a few thousand views on it, and I'm like, I'm going to share my story, and it got 1 million views.
And so Graham shared his story with
and everyone
his
else
4GT.
chimed in. So I want to say that was this guy here.
And so everyone was showing their examples of buying a really expensive car, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, driving it, adding miles to it, and then all of a sudden, just a couple years later, it's worth the exact same amount. So effectively, it could be cheaper to be driving a Bugatti or a Lamborghini Aventador than a Honda Civic.
Technically, I lost more money on my Tesla Model 3 than my Ford GT.
That's interesting. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ford GT.
So the Ford GT made me money. The Tesla lost me money.
So Graham and I were having this discussion recently where I was saying that if you live in abundance and you spend more money, you go to more events, you buy more luxury things, that it, oddly enough, through some weird way that life takes you, will end up making more money for you. And I kind of think that if you buy a Ford GT, maybe you go to a Ford GT meetup and you meet somebody, you do a deal with them, or you just hold on to a very, exclusive asset. And then these exclusive assets, they get destroyed as long as you maintain them. They go up in value over time. Whereas like the more expensive, if you live very frugally, then I do think that, what you put out, it kind of comes back to you.
I want to give you an example.
Go ahead.
That's very interesting. I bought the 2010 Tesla Roadster in yellow with Carl.
Nice.
We had Carl on the podcast. I lost money on the Tesla Roadster. I paid $130 for it, and it's worth less because Elon did his thing and the desire for Tesla just went down. But it was through that Tesla that we met because I put up a thing like, hey, any buyers here, just reach out. You reached out. We kept in touch. Now we have you on the podcast. It was through you that you put us in touch with Rick Caruso.
Yes.
I really want to help Rick get elected with whatever he decides to run for, I want to fully back and help his campaign. Like, it's just that one purchase, even though on paper it might have lost me money, probably ended up as a net benefit overall when you account for all these little ancillary things that have come from that Tesla.
Yeah, and you spoke about it, you've made videos about it, people bring it up, you get to show it off. Like I think that when you live like a wealthy person, then wealth and abundance and opportunity kind of starts coming to you.
There's also risks associated with that.
For sure, like he lost money, like objectively, if you just isolate it on his Roadster, but also it's that same behavior that led to him buying the Ford GT, which is another luxury good, which he ended up making money.
Jack's looking for an excuse to spend a little more money right now.
Yeah.
I would say do it, but I would also say do it on something you know a lot about. And here's the truth, okay? You don't have to be stinking rich to take some of those risks, okay? But you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. So let's just say you have a 401k and you've got $150,000, and with that $150,000, you could theoretically cash it out and go get this car that you're planning on potentially breaking even on and making great relationships over. There's also a chance that won't happen. The problem with it not happening is it is the only chance. It is the only opportunity. And so that's where it starts to get a little bit hazy. Now, I say that, and I was buying domain names on student loans. So like, okay, I just felt like I knew something that other people didn't know. So I think it really comes down to what's the asymmetry of information? How much more do you know than everybody else about something? If you feel like you've got incredible insights, you're not following the crowd, you're ahead of the crowd, then yeah, go for it. Try it. If you feel like you're behind, don't follow your way into taking the singular risk that could ruin you.
But how do you spot something that other people don't see? It just seems like you have an eye and you say, this is going to be valuable. Like we were talking the other day and you gave me these great ideas of things that I never really thought about. You're like, oh yeah, 10x in 10 years would be a good return. And you could do like with these little things here. Like I was even looking at sealed PlayStation 1s. Like the original PlayStation, and everything is on eBay. And just like all these weird things from my childhood. Like how do you know it's going to be worth money and what's not?
Analogies. Okay, they're always good to use. So when I was a kid, there were baseball cards that are now $50 million that were $15,000. Okay, but I watched that go from 15,000 to 100 to 1 million to 10 million to 50 million, and you start seeing these things happen in other categories, emerging categories of collectability, and you go, oh, I can kind of connect the dots here. So what's the most valuable thing what's the most valuable magazine that's ever come out? What's the most valuable record album that's ever come out? And there are other indicators that I look for, like, are they being graded? Is there someone that's archiving grading and then publishing the population reports of these graded assets? Like, there are ways to get ahead of these categories. And to me, I love being ahead. I love it. It's my favorite thing. But again, remember, I'm on a treasure hunt, on a lifelong treasure hunt, because that's my job.
That's so interesting. It just got me thinking of like the first, what do you call it, Discover magazine or whatever, first Time magazine.
Yeah.
What about the first ever McDonald's menu?
Fine.
I'm buying that. You could probably find that pretty cheaply.
I've been trying to find the original Playboy with Marilyn Monroe on the cover.
Yeah.
I found a good one on Facebook. I'm just saying.
How much is it?
I think it was like $2,000-$3,000.
That actually, honestly, is not that expensive.
Not graded, but it doesn't seem like they come up in perfect condition. It's very unusual to find a graded above like a 5 or a 6.
And by the way, he sold so many copies of that first edition. But you can imagine these magazines are not in great condition.
They're used, Jack. You would know all about
that.
Dude. So these mint magazines are pretty spectacularly rare. Now, of course, if you have the collector mentality, today it makes more sense. But in 1960, who was thinking about that? It
to me, it seems like it goes on a curve of it's really popular and then it dies down. And you got to get it when it's died down. But how do you tell when it's going to be going back up? Like the Beanie Baby example, you would think that it should be going back up and that people would now look back at like the Princess Diana Beanie Baby and buy that one. It still seems like there's not any demand for that.
Yeah, interesting. There is a community. There is a community of collectors for Beanie Babies. And if you look on eBay and you list by sold auctions and you go from high to low, you'll find there's Beanie Babies that are still selling today in the tens of thousands of dollars range. The community is just not as big as you might have remembered in the 1990s because the late 90s, where it was just such a huge rush. But actually, Ty does a great business even today. They just don't position it as much as a collectible, as a toy. Today, they're more positioned towards toys. But some of those older Beanie Babies, there's still a community that actively buys and sells. And interestingly enough, maybe that is an opportunity to find what is the most valuable, what is the rarest, like Funko Pop. Or, any of these categories, you might find that the most valuable one is 30 grand. And if you find that, it's an interesting opportunity if you draw the analogy to other collectible items that have sold for $50 million.
Mm-hmm. I just think we were talking original Disney props, and I think anything Nightmare Before Christmas, Haunted Mansion, old Disney, I think is going to do incredibly well. It's hard to find. Movie props. I was looking at, I think it was Heritage Auctions, where they were doing a lot of the old movie props. And it's hard to find something like an original lightsaber. Something like this would be incredible.
It'd be amazing. And actually, one just sold in the millions of dollars. There was these ruby red slippers, right, from The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
It was something that we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. And I was covering that, because on my own Instagram, I'm just a big collector nerd and I love it. But I was covering it and I was like, this is $1.5 million with 3 days left. It was kind of amazing. The pair of shoes were $1.5 million. I think they sold ultimately for over $25 million. $25 million for ruby red slippers.
It was 32
Was
million.
It 32?
It was $32,500,000 plus.
Yeah.
There are probably buyer's fees on top of that.
That's what it was. It was 32 with the buyer's fees.
Yeah.
So $32 million. That's serious money. But what's the analogy? The analogy is, there's plenty of movie props over time that are, maybe that's the grail, but aren't there other things that are just right under that or maybe close to the same level that have sold for hundreds of thousands or thousands of dollars and people don't necessarily know what they're holding, or they go to a auction house that's not very well trafficked? Like, there's all kinds of opportunities out there right now when it comes to movie props and memorabilia.
Do we know who bought that?
I don't.
Very curious.
How much money do you think you have to spend $30 million on red shoes from The Wizard of Oz?
$1 billion. I would say you have to be at least
you got to be
multi-billion.
multi-billionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's another thing that's happening right now. There are syndicates of investors that are working together.
Oh, interesting.
To establish a large pool, like they do when it comes to these funds that you can invest
like a fractional ownership.
Yes, but like fractional ownership, like there are really great fractional companies like Rally out there that buy an asset. But I'm talking about funds that are owned much the way you would invest in a fund where there's like 300 or 400 people that have put money in to own companies fractionally, where the objective is to buy this and to sell it in a very specific window of time. And those exist right now. In fact, one of my buddies, Shine, and Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Has recently created one of those funds, and it's a closed fund. There's only like several people in it, but they've already put like $50 million into buying high-end trading cards.
What did he just buy? He just spent $12 million on a card.
It was a basketball card. Was it Zion Williamson or something?
That's right. They bought a Jordan, Kobe, Upper Deck exquisite card
signed
by both, and those exquisite cards were very unusual because it was a time where the card market wasn't at its very top. It really kind of bottomed out. And this was a very new concept to card collecting. If you remember, you don't remember, but I remember back in the 1980s, there was a huge boom in cards, but everything was oversupplied and there was no rarity. So you couldn't get like a 1 of 10 or a 1 of 1. But Upper Deck and some of these other companies in the mid to late 90s started really utilizing that. And in utilizing that, they created a monster. Okay, and that's the entire basis of card collecting today is this chase, this lotto, this collectible system. And Upper Deck Exquisite, they've really done a lot of investing in that category.